And their friends, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project. This is the infamous Huck L. Berry. Yes, the prima donna of the house, no doubt about it. And she is very demanding these days. But the biggest thing she wants is, she wants her picture seen. Dad say, this is Huck TV, this is my channel. Huck, this is your channel. She's staring at the sign here. Hey, what's wrong? He's a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. He's a good girl. Oh, he's a good girl. Yeah. Yeah, he's a good girl. Oh, that's good, huh? That's good. Yeah. Hey, he's a good girl. She's being very shy today. So, I'm going to get over to the important business at hand, and there is much to have. So, the Kickstarter campaign. When you're dealing with almost 3,000 people, you're going to have a few that aren't the nicest. So, I hired a company that I've worked with for a long time to send out the emails to everybody who paid $35 or more to get a copy of the movie. I guess people don't realize that when you send emails out from a big company, they know whether you looked at it, opened it, or it was delivered. And 80% of the people that complained adamantly had opened the email that was sent. And we couldn't tell if it was downloaded or not. But they complained. One person complained and trashed me. And the funny thing is, as she's trashing me on Kickstarter, we were already on the phone with each other for an hour trying to figure out a fix for these people that claim they never got the link. Friends, if there's anybody in this world that isn't going to screw you, it's me. I've never taken money under false pretenses. I never would. But people are just ready to jump on you and annihilate you and humiliate you the first chance they get. And because there's dead air there for a while we're trying to figure this out, it's truly amazing. It's truly amazing. That's all I could say. The other part of it is that how long are we responsible for you getting your reward? That's a real $1 million question. We sent out an email 3 weeks ago saying, hey, if you didn't get your reward, sending out an email saying, confirm your name, your address, send it to us. And we got in a ton of addresses, over 1,000. And we mailed all those out within 3 days. We got a special team in here. I couldn't have done it in a month. And now, people are saying, oh, we never saw that email. Here we go again. Here we go again. But we again looked, and oh yeah, those people saw the email because they opened it. I can't win everybody over. People are going to keep trashing me. It's a dirty world. And I wish that there was some way that people could understand that I'm not the person that's going to screw you over. But I think some people just enjoy belittling, disparaging, because the only control they have and the only way they really have to express themselves is on that computer. And this company that sent out the emails was in huge defense of us because they said, Dave, these people that are complaining don't have much of a room to stand on because it was sent. And the problem is on their end with their computer and their email supplier about what they did with it. That's not my expertise, but I brought the experts back at my expense to find a fix. And just so you know, We are tens of thousands of dollars over budget on this movie already. So, now the case I'm going to talk to you about today is it's about Northeast Michigan again. And I'm amazed that I never found any of these before, but after I started to focus on that area of the United States, I was actually overwhelmed at the amount of cases. And I am going to start paying much more attention to people who vanish on boats and people who vanish on planes. Because I think this is all part of it. Now in this case today, we're going to talk about Captain Garland Hanson, 29 years old, missing December 7th, 1954 at 6:31 p.m. in Michigan, Northeast Michigan. Now, Captain Garland was born in Rapid City, South Dakota, January 4th, 1925. He and his family, when he was a little boy, moved to Verblum, South Dakota. Farming community, even today only has a population of 537. He attended school for his entire time in Verblum, and in 1943 he joined the military. You know, after having lived in Montana for several years, people that were grown up in a small town have small town values. One thing I've never experienced, except once, an entire time in Montana, is people honking a horn. They don't do it. They don't want to be rude. But yet other people can be rude at a drop of a dime. I don't get it. Well, he completed flight training for World War II just in time to fly 3 combat missions over Germany. He was flying in a B-17. When the war was ended, he was discharged in 1945 because they didn't have room in the military for all those pilots. Hundreds were discharged forcibly. And let's remember this. When he applied for the military in 43, he was a nobody. But they made him a pilot because they saw his talent. So he was discharged. He turned around and re-enlisted in 1945. They had no pilot positions, but they gave him a job as an Air Force Master Sergeant. They still had no pilot positions, but while he was in Rapid City being a Master Sergeant, they recalled him to full duty as an officer in a second lieutenant commission. And they sent him to Mitchell Field in New York for retraining. He was promoted to first lieutenant after going through training there. At that time, he had a second son named Gary. The oldest son was already 7 years old. He was born in Sioux Falls in 1949. After training in New York, he was sent to Okinawa. In 1950, Mrs. Hanson and her 2 boys joined him there. At the time, he was the supply officer for the HQ squadron for the 20th Air Force Wing. A shortage of pilots gave Garland another opportunity. And he was transferred to the 51st Fighter Interceptor Group, October of 1949. After the Korean outbreak, 2 squads of the 51st, including his, were sent to Itazuke, Japan. At the time, he was flying an F-80, which was probably one of the slowest planes around. The Air Force didn't yet have the F-84 and 86. So in that 80, he predominantly did escort patrol, air drone protection, ground support, and some recon. While out in November 1950, in that F-80, he shot down the fastest jet in the sky, a MiG. The MiG was way faster, much more aerodynamic than the 80. And it was a testament to Hanson's flying ability that took down the MiG. And when he got back, the Air Force took a photo of him stepping out of the 80. And this was the picture. Now there's a proud pilot. Now these planes were not even close to being equal. The MiG was way faster. So Hanson had to have been not good, exceptional. That's the kind of pilots and the training that they went through. He said that while he was there, the ground fire took down many American planes. And he said the F-80s had to often fly low to the ground, sometimes 50 feet off. And it was well known that pilots that were captured by the Koreans were tortured unmercilessly. It was horrific. Now, Garland's son was born in Okinawa. This is funny. Mrs. Hanson was the only wife in the squadron. Everyone else was single. So what the family did was to give the pilots a family surrounding and a home-cooked meal. Garland would invite him over to his house. Wife would cook the meal and they'd be around the kids. It was a good atmosphere. And it just showed what kind of guy he was that cared about not only his family, but other pilots. In July 10th, 1951, he was given a 30-day leave to go home, visit his family. His wife was from South Dakota as well. And since he came from a farming community, everyone came to meet him. Now, this was a picture taken on his 30-day leave then. There's his wife, his 3 boys, and him. That's a great pic. Now, this came out of a little tiny newspaper in North Dakota way back then. And the community all came together to see the hero. You got to remember, he actually re-enlisted after they discharged him. That's how much of a pilot and a military man he was. In December of '54, the wife and the kids moved again. They went to Newburgh, New York, and they were at Stewart Air Force Base, which is now Stewart International Airport. And they were there because he got moved again. Now, I want you to understand something. The wife of a pilot, or the wife of a military person, really holds everything together. Wherever their husband or their wife go, they go. And I've met people before that were in the military that had to move 15 times in a career. That's really rough. You really never get to know the community. You're bouncing around so much. It's tough. Well, Air Force pilots go through training often. Part of that new training is in technology, new planes, new routes, new weather conditions, etc. Flying at night, flying at day. There were multiple versions of what happened to the captain. And it took me reading probably 50 different articles to figure out. It wasn't easy. Captain Garland was making training flights out of Stewart Air Force Base. December 7th, '54, there are numerous accounts saying he was flying from Stewart Air Force Base on a training flight to Wurtsmith Air Force Base in Michigan. And this is when the incident happened. Not true. Yeah, not true. Fact, Garland was at Wurtsmith Air Force Base in the early evening, and he was scheduled to make a nighttime flight to Stewart that should last him between 90 minutes and 2 hours. He was flying at Air Force T-33A. At the time, it was one of the best-known aircrafts in the world, flying by over 20 different nations over many decades. Pilots called it the T-Bird. It evolved from the F-80, a plane that Hanson had over 1,000 hours. and it was in the Air Force inventory until 1957. Manufactured by Lockheed, it was designed as a two-seat trainer, but it also had a single jet engine. It had two .50 caliber machine guns in the nose. It had a 1,000-mile range and a maximum speed of 525 miles an hour and a cruising speed of 455 miles per hour. It was fast. And it was a two-seater. But that night, he was the only pilot. It didn't take two to fly it, but he was the only pilot. Now, where is Wurtsmith? When I looked it up, I thought, my gosh, right in the middle of the chaos. So, you remember Sheboygan, Bois Blanc Island, disappearances, Presque Isle Harbor, disappearance. Wurtsmith is right here. And remember the other pilot flying up north, disappeared? This entire region, this is all Lake Huron right here. This entire region is nothing but disappearances. It's not even funny. Got it? So, December 7th, 1954, at 6:15 p.m., it was rainy, snowy, nighttime. Nothing unusual for the Air Force pilots to fly in. He took off from Wurtsmith Air Force Base in Michigan, flying south-southeast to his next destination. And where was he going? He was going home. To Stewart Air Force Base, which is now Stewart International Airport. This is the route. He would leave Wurtsmith, fly southeast, had permission to fly through Canadian airspace, and he was just off the coast, 11 miles, when something happened. Now remember, cloudy, rainy, partly snowy. 15 minutes after takeoff, he radios Wurtsmith, stating he was 11 miles east-southeast, exactly where he should be. And he had engine problems, and he was at 2,500 feet. Now, there are other versions of this cannot be confirmed. First of all, the Air Force immediately called for a search and rescue because he went off radar. Water temps in this area were not cold. They were freezing. So anybody knew that if you jumped out of that plane, you weren't going to live long enough to have the Air Force rescue you. You were only going to live minutes in that water. The Air Force immediately calls for search and rescue. Some articles stated that they believe Garland would turn the plane back and try to glide it into land. These planes were not known for their gliding ability. Yeah, they would glide a little bit. Not real good. They didn't have big wings. They weren't designed to glide. Another article stated something that I'd never heard before. In all the articles I read, it said that he drained the batteries trying to restart the engine. I don't know where they got that, because I couldn't find any transmissions of him saying it. Now, the 49th Air Rescue Squadron from Selfridge Air Force Base immediately sent two F-A-16 Albatross amphibian planes and also sent two helicopters into that area looking for Garland. Wurtsmith only had two helicopters that they could dispatch, which wasn't much. Now, the Civil Air Patrol is very strong and always has been in Michigan. They dispatched planes from Bad Axe, Imlay City, Marlette, and Jackson. That was a bigger response than the Air Force could give. And the Port Huron Civil Air Patrol also dispatched a couple planes. On Thursday, December 10th, the Air Force said that Garland vanished in light rain and snow. And that had lingered on, and it affected the search in the area for him. 3 planes reportedly returned on December 9th and gave a briefing and said that they saw nothing on the water. They saw no oil, no gas, no engine parts, no parts of the plane. And the plane was a bright silver aluminum plane, easily seen from the air. It would flash brightly. And remember, he had a lot of fuel. He was flying home. So where'd all that fuel go? On Thursday, the 10th, they said that there was still a limited search going on now. Part of that search included a Civil Air Patrol plane that was flown by the Lieutenant Governor's wife of Michigan, Lieutenant Jane Hart. December 12th, just 4 days of searching. Remember, he disappeared on the 7th. First real big day of searching was the next day. The Air Force gave up on the captain. 4 days. If there was anybody that could have flown that plane to safety, it was Garland. He had over 100 combat missions in Korea alone. And he disappears in the friendly waters of Lake Huron. This was the photo of the captain that was released at the time by the Air Force. This isn't even a stretch, folks. A true American hero. And the Air Force gives up on him after 4 days. It's disgusting. Did they know something we didn't know? Why give up? Well, truth of the matter is, maybe they didn't. And maybe they didn't tell everybody. Because the facts were, the Air Force told the family that when the air search was over, they went out with ships and they did a sonar search of the area where he went off radar. And they searched for weeks trying to find the plane. Now, every report that was released by the Air Force during their air search stated that he was 11 to 13 miles southeast of Wordsmith. He stated he was 11 miles southeast of Wordsmith. The man was a true aviator. He'd flown all over the world. He tells you where he is, that's where he was. Well, the Air Force made a special point of saying that there was a steep drop-off in Lake Huron 14 miles off the coast, and if he went off there, they didn't think that they could find him. Well, that's not where he was, so why even bring up that point? Why say that when the search wasn't even in that area? So he disappears on the 7th. 12 days after he disappears, the Air Force declares Garland deceased. A chaplain from Stewart Air Force Base went to the family's house and told them the grim news. They said he crashed and he couldn't be found. Not only he couldn't be found, his plane was never found. Nothing was ever found. Now, I think it's important to understand the totality of this man. Some of the awards that he got, well, first of all, on December 21st, just a few days after he was declared deceased, the family flew to Sioux Falls and they held a service for him at the Lutheran Church on 12/21, 2 p.m. All of his family was there, friends. It was a grim day. And then they read this. His awards. U.S. Air Force Aviator Badge, World War II Victory Medal, American Campaign Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Republic of Korea Presidential Citation, Republic of Korea War Service Medal, the UN Service Medal, the Air Force Presidential Unit Citation, and the Air Force Good Conduct Medal, to name a few. Fact: he had flown over 100 missions in combat territory. Germany and Korea. Multiple wars. Yet he's lost in friendly waters off the coast of Michigan. How many planes have been lost in and around the Great Lakes and never found? I've never heard of this case. I searched forward 60 years. There's not one thing in there saying he or the plane were ever found. His wife had to raise 3 boys without their dad. That's brutal. How many disappearances now in Northeast Michigan? You could start counting them. 12 days, just 12 days after disappearing, the Air Force declares him deceased. Do you realize it takes 7 years in most states to declare somebody deceased? But they did. A minimum 4-day total search for the plane. It's almost like they knew something else happened. What happened to him? They knew exactly where that plane fell off radar. They knew exactly. If they knew exactly, why play this game? Now, friends, when a big plane, and this is no private pilot, this is a jet carrying a lot of fuel, travel 1,000 miles. It would lay out a huge gas sheen on the lake. They never found it. Now, if some of you are saying, well, Dave's kind of making a big deal out of this. Yeah, I am. Because I don't believe any of it. I don't believe any of these missing boats, missing planes are what they appear to be. Remember, Lake Superior is the best example I can find. Air Force jet asked by Canada to intercept. They called it a UFO. The UFO and the jet come together, both of them disappear. Huge search, nothing's found. I'm just telling you facts. And you know, I said this at the premiere. These cases sort of get to me. They get to me because I can feel the perspective of the families. When I was at the premiere, I felt horrible for the families of the missing people. Horrible. Maybe I'm not supposed to feel this, but I have great empathy for them. When I was writing up this story, I could only think about Garland's sons. And you know, back then, everybody just believed the military. Oh yeah, well, they didn't know about every other plane person that disappeared in that area. They didn't know whether to really question the military. Or question the military? No. You just don't do that. Even a lot of people today say, well, you know what, Dave doesn't do any good research, and you know, he's making a mountain out of a molehill, and I think the most pitiful thing here is there's really nothing out there about Garland Hanson, Captain Garland Hanson. I thank you guys for being here. I really do. And we have some cool things up on the website now. We have the Bigfoot bundle back. Oh yeah. And it's a good deal. And we just brought these back from the premiere. Hoodie. And they're nice cotton sweatshirts. We're good ones. So, yeah, they're in the store, missing411.com. Go to the online store. You can see we have a couple of cool things going on. And you guys have always said, hey, Dave, how come you never have any merchandise? No, nothing to wear. Here you go. And we also have stuff from Sasquatch left, too. Hats, beanies, etc. Check them out. And kindness. Do you know at the premiere, I gave out a kindness award, first time ever? If you watch the movie, you can watch Missing 411, National Parks, Washington State. You can watch it on Amazon, Apple TV, YouTube TV. The best example I've seen of kindness in all the movies I made was this bike shop owner. I didn't tell anybody. But I made up an award for him. Gave him a plaque. He was crying. He was so happy. Because that man never knew that he'd be in this big audience in front of thousands of people being talked about for his act of kindness to a young man he never met before when they stepped in that bike shop of his. Never asked for any money. Fixed up his bike, put on new tires, gave him gloves, gave those to him. How many people out there emit that kind of kindness? On my X channel the other day, I put up a case about a girl who had mental health issues in Spain. And they put her in this hospital for treatment. While she was in the hospital, she was gang raped and brutalized. And she jumped out a 5th floor window to escape the attacks that came time after time. And she jumped out and became a paraplegic. It's a horrible story. Horrible. The reason I put it on my X account is that Spain said that they were going to allow her to kill herself. She said she wanted to commit suicide. Remember, she was in a mental health hospital. Her father begged the country to stop. Begged for an attorney to step in. Nobody would. Not one lousy attorney would help her father. She's in the mental health facility because she has mental health issues. Can she really decide for herself what's best for her? I agree, she's living with horrific life. Gang rape, paraplegic now. I see that. But for a country to allow that to happen without one mention of what happened to the men who gang raped her, I put it on X and I got tons of responses. Mental health, I know about it. I know about it really well. It's a horrible thing. I don't know one person in my world that hasn't had a downer of a day every once in a while. How do you pick yourself up? Yeah, after Ben took his life, after 5 of my friends have died in the last few years, it's just destroyed me. Thank God I have Huck. remember that if you take your life, all that is a transfer of pain from you to all of your loved ones. And now they carry that burden. Oh, it's true. Oh, it's true. So if for no other reason, fight that battle. Get help. I've stated 100 times, NAMI, N-A-M-I. Best courses, best counseling in the world for free. They will do it online. You can come down to their offices. They're all over the U.S. Look them up. N-A-M-I. Now, you people over here that are commenting say, Dave, I'm not here to talk about mental health. I don't care about you. I care about the people, the hundreds, if not thousands, that have said, Dave, thanks for talking about this. Because nobody else wants to. We have a mental health crisis right now in the U.S. 90% of the people on the streets that are homeless, they have alcohol, drug, and mental health issues. Nobody's doing anything about it. Our government doesn't even care about them. It's disgusting. Somebody's got to start talking about it. They have to. Thank you for being here. Sorry I got all riled up. Keep Garland Hanson's family in your prayers. His sons are probably still alive. Be safe. Be kind. I'll let you take a look. Huck's asleep right now. Here she is. She's comfortable like that. Paulides out.